Hey everyone, welcome to lesson 3 of the companion lab. In this lesson we're going to go over squares of binomials. But before we go over squares of binomials, we have to review how to multiply two binomials together. And so it says right here to know your formulas for special products. Certain products, which we call special products, occur frequently in algebra. When multiplying two binomials, we can calculate them easily by using the FOIL method. And so FOIL stands for, right here, first, outer, inner, last. And so I have a generic example right here. You can see the first, which is A times CX, the outer, which is AX times D, inner, which is B times CX, and then last, which is B times D. Okay, so that's the method we're going to use when we multiply binomials. So I have 4 examples down here, and let's jump in and do them. So example 1, we're multiplying. So I can see I have these 2 binomials here, and I know they're binomials because they have 2 terms. So when you're multiplying 2 polynomials that have 2 terms, those are considered binomials. And so we will use our FOIL method. So my first is x times x because they're the first term in both binomials. And x times x gives me x squared. Then we will do outer. And so we're talking about the 2 outer terms when you're looking at these together. So x times 4, which gives me 4x. The I stands for inner. My inner terms right here are the inside ones. So we've got 3 times x. And that's going to give me 3x. And then my last term. So from each binomial, we're talking about the last term in both of them, which is 3 times 4. And that's going to give me 12. So you can always combine like terms. And in this case, my like terms are those x's. And so my final answer is x squared plus 4x plus 3x gives me 7x plus 12. Okay, so that's my final answer. Now on B, we're going to do the exact same FOIL method, but I'm not going to list it out like I did right here. I'm going to do my first terms, which is 3 times 2x. Those are my first terms in both binomials. So 3x times 2x gives me 6x squared. Then my outer terms is 3 times 1, which gives me 3x. Then I will do my inner terms, which is negative 5 times 2x to give me negative 10x. And negative 5 times 1 to give me negative 5. Again, if you're using this FOIL method more times than not, I'm not going to say every time because it's not true, but most times, these middle terms are what we can combine. They're going to be your x terms. So I'm going to bring my 6x squared down. 3x minus 10x gives me negative 7x. And then bring down your minus 5. Okay. Let's do some more examples here. Oops. Okay. So over here we have x plus 8 times x minus 8. So notice that these are almost identical. One's a plus 8, one's a minus 8 though. Still do the same thing. We're doing our first. My first is x times x to give me x squared. Then we'll do our outer. My outer terms are x times negative 8. And notice what I did here is I just took this first term and I just distributed it to both terms in that second one. Okay, that's what that first and outer makes you do. So then my inner, we're going to do 8 times x to give me positive 8x. And then my last to go 8 times negative 8 to give me negative 64. These are my like terms again. Well, negative 8 plus 8, those cancel. So my final answer is just x squared minus 64. We're going to be revisiting this later on in this class. And this is called difference of squares. Okay, we will be dealing with those later on. Difference of squares, those middle terms will cancel out just like it did on this one. Okay, and then our last example here of multiplying two binomials by the FOIL method. We're going to go 4x times x, because that's our first terms, and that's going to give me 4x squared. Then my outer, 4x times negative 2 to go negative 8x. And again, notice what I did here is I just took that first term of 4x and I distributed it to both terms of my second binomial. And then inner is negative 3 times x, which is negative 3x. And my last, which is negative 3 times negative 2 to go plus 6. We're going to combine our like terms, which is those middle ones again. And that's 4x squared minus 11x plus 6. Okay, and again, notice that when I did that minus 3, I just distributed it to both my binomials again. Okay, so that's a review on multiplying binomials. Rewatch that portion if you're not good at this yet. If you feel like you're good, let's move on to this down here, which is what my lesson is about here. Okay, this is the goal of the lesson, is to learn what are called squares of binomials. It says right here that some products have been given special names because of their form. The special product we are going to focus on in this lesson is squares of binomials. So in example 2, I am multiplying this and I have x plus 5 quantity squared. All this square term here is telling me is that I have 2 of its base, which is x plus 5. So the first way we're going to solve these is by expanding these out. If I have x plus 5 quantity squared, that is the same thing as x plus 5 times x plus 5. Well, this is what we just did. Now we're going to FOIL these. So my first is x times x to give me x squared. My outer is x plus 5 to give me plus 5x. Okay, I've distributed the x, now let's distribute the 5. And we're going to do my inner, which is 5 times x, and my outer, 5 times 5. Combine your like terms. And we have x squared plus 10x plus 25. Okay, pause the video and see if you guys can do B on your own. Okay, I hope you paused the video and you tried B on your own, so let's see if we can do it together. X minus 7 quantity squared, I can expand that out, and that's x minus 7 times x minus 7. That's really the only additional step that we have, and now we're FOILing like we just did in the first 4, 5 if you include the one we just did over here to the left. So first, x times x gives me x squared. My outer, x times negative 7 is negative 7x. Now my inner is negative 7 times x. And my last is negative 7 times negative 7, which is positive 49. Combine your like terms and we get x squared minus 14x plus 49. Now really that's the whole lesson right there. But down here, I gave you the formula for squares of binomials. Now, hopefully once we start getting good at this, we don't need to expand these out like we did here and then FOIL. And really, I hope that we don't have to memorize this formula. I hope it should just kind of make sense. But if you have x plus a or x minus a squared, all you're doing is squaring that first term, which is what we did here. We took that x and we squared it to get the x squared. The back of it, you're doing a squared. Okay, so 5 squared is 25. Negative 7 squared is 49. And then here you either have plus 2ax or minus 2ax. And the reason for that is because you're going to end up, when you FOIL, get that twice. And so you're going to be ending up doubling it. Okay. So if I use this formula here, I have x squared, and then this is my a. So for this first portion here, you just have x squared plus 2 times a, which is 10 times x, plus your a squared, which is 10. So you got x squared plus 20x plus 100. Which should make sense because you're doing, your first would be x times x, then your inner and your last, or sorry, your inner and your outer would be x times 10, and then 10 times x to get you to that 20x, and then you would do your last, which would be 10 times 10. Okay, and then one more time here. Okay, so whatever that x is, we're squaring it. In this case, my x is 5x. So that means we have 5x squared. Because this is a minus, I have a minus 2 here. So minus 2 times a, which is 5x. Nope. A is 6. Times my x, which is 5x. And then plus a squared. So plus 6 squared. 25x squared, or sorry, 5x squared is 25x squared. This middle one is 2 times 6 times 5, which is going to give me 60 x plus 36. Okay, I gave you these formulas here, but I hope you don't have to memorize them. I hope that you can just kind of understand what we're doing here is we're expanding this out and then foiling. Okay. I don't care also which method you use, whether you use the formula or you expand out and FOIL. You don't need to master both example 2 and 3. You just need to make sure that you master at least one of those two methods. As you can see in pre-calculus up here, maybe. And I should have mentioned this from the beginning. We are going to need this in quite a few lessons. Now, we're not going to need it a lot in these lessons. You might need it on 1 or 2 problems. But this is something that is going to keep occurring throughout your pre-calculus. So it is really important that you do know how to do this. Not necessarily the foiling part, but these examples down here, examples 2 and 3. If you have any questions, please shoot me an email and I'll be happy to answer those.